Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube channel. Um, this video will be focusing on the approaches to educational planning 2. In the approaches to educational planning 1, I took a look at the two approaches to educational planning. But in this video 2, I want to be talking on the remaining two approaches. I am Maruf Akinwale Oladejo from the Department of Educational Management, University of Lagos, Lagos, Nigeria. Uh, The learning objectives in this video is that by the end of the lesson, you should be able to have acquired 80% proficiency, which will enable you to be able to discuss the rate of returns approach to educational planning. What does it mean? What are the assumptions and what are its merits and demerits? And of course, to be able to explain employment generation approach to educational planning, its merits, its demerit. Now, a recap of video 1. In video 1, I made it known that educational planning plays crucial roles in shaping the direction and development of educational systems. And I said that effective educational planning strives to create an inclusive and quality education system that ensures equitable access, prepares individuals for lifelong learning, and contributes to societal development. And I also say that its goal is to establish a roadmap for achieving educational objectives, optimizing optimizing resources and adapting to changing socio-economic and technological landscapes. Now, uh, in this video, I will now be talking on the rate of returns approach to educational planning, in line with the already stated learning objectives. So, rate of returns approach to educational planning, otherwise known as cost benefit approach, stresses that investment in education should be based on the returns that are expected from such investment. So, it is the approach that takes a look at the cost of education and the benefits of education. The present cost of education, and the future benefits of education. So it therefore emphasizes that investment in education should be based on the returns that are expected from such investment. So the idea thing now is that if you are investing in educational program, you have to consider the cost. If the cost is higher than the benefit, then it is not advisable. You take a look at another program where you can, you know, effectively and maximally use the available resources, bearing in mind the fact that resources are always scarce, not in adequate supply. So, but if cost is lesser than benefit, then it really makes sense. So you have to go for that type of educational program because what you are expecting from your investment is far greater than what you are going to spend. But if cost and benefit are the same, then you have to use your discretion to see if it is still worthwhile, to invest in that type of educational program. Now, CBA looks at each level of education as investment in human beings, be it primary, be it secondary, be it tertiary. Any level of education has potential, to produce quality human beings. So each level of education is an investment in human beings with the purpose that the returns will help to improve the whole economy. So whether it is primary or secondary or tertiary, when we talk about in the last video, when I talk about the social demand approach, basically it is usually meant to plan primary level of education or basic level of education. While manpower requirement approach usually focuses on higher education. But rate of returns approach or cost benefits approach can be applied at any level of education because each level of education is seen as investment in human beings with the purpose that the returns will help to improve the whole economy. So this approach provides a method to appraise future benefits in accordance to the cost that need to be made in the present time. And RRA believes that educational expenditure should be seen as an investment at the national level which will give returns in the form of higher productivity and greater earnings of the educated people. So if you spend on education, it is an investment. And if you take a national look at it, RRA contends that that investment will give returns in form of higher productivity and greater earnings of the educated people. Now, there is an assumption that underlies the use of this approach. The approach holds the assumption that there is a direct link between earnings and productivity. The more you earn, the higher your productivity. The lower you earn, the lower your productivity. That is the assumption that we need to hold on to when applying this RRA uh, approach to educational planning. Now, what are the advantages of this approach to educational planning? The approach provides us with a means of appraising future benefits in terms of the cost that must be incurred at present. What are the total costs of education? Let's use that as basis to appraise future benefits. This approach, provides us with that opportunity. RRA also allows educational planners that opportunity to do a comparison with other alternative investments. And this is one of the disadvantages of a social demand approach. There are different alternatives to which, programs that we can invest in or invest on. So in this approach, educational planners have the opportunity to do comparison. Will it be profitable here? Will our investment here will be profitable? What will be the benefit? Because we have different alternative programs that we can bring into fore. Then the approach is the most national and prudent one to planning because you are considering your cost. It will pay me if I go into this educational program. It will pay me if I go into school business management, you know, considering what I will gain from what I'm going to spend. So that is why it is a prudent approach to planning. It's a prudent approach to planning. It also minimizes waste in investment. RRA minimizes waste in investment because you have to take a critical look at every pros and cons of what you want to work on. And finally, RRA emphasizes the benefit versus cost principle, unlike manpower requirements approach. Rates of returns approach to educational planning emphasizes the principle of cost benefits. The principle. And what is that principle? It pays when the cost is higher than, when the benefits are higher than the cost, it pays. The principle says that if the costs are higher than the benefit, it doesn't pay. So this RRA emphasizes the principle of cost benefits technique. Then what about the disadvantages? The approach, the rates of returns approach does not deal with the social backgrounds and abilities of individuals and how such factors may have a positive influence on their earnings and education attainment. So it doesn't take a look into social background. All the main focus is cost and what and benefits. So whatever the background, social background of the student, whatever their ability and whatever impact the social background factors, the ability of students, the factor of ability of students may have on their influence or may influence their earnings and education, the rate of returns approach does not consider that. It is also very difficult to adopt in a developing country like Nigeria, where it is difficult to calculate social and private returns to education. Very, very difficult. In developing country, it is not easy to be able to calculate social and private returns of, I mean, education. The cost benefit analysis pays attention to the investment aspects of education against the consumption. It is only on investment only the investment aspect. Whereas education is both, investment is both an investment good and a consumption good. But this approach focuses only on the investment aspect of education. Uh, it is also hard to calculate benefits attributable to an educated man in monetary terms. So it is very difficult. How you monetize the benefits that are accruable to educated man? And of course, the tangible benefits of education are difficult to calculate. The last approach is the employment generation approach. Many of us might be seeing this approach for the first time. It is a product of my extensive literature review because in the past, I used to read the fourth approach as the synthetic or eclectic approach. And I try to, support the identification of that approach with authority, but I couldn't find. In the literature, most authors always attribute that approach to Professor Frederick Abinson. But when I did research, I discovered that Abinson did not talk about anything that is synthetic or eclectic approach to educational planning. In his book on human resources as wealth of nations, published in 1973, Professor Frederick Abinson identified employment generation approach to educational planning. He, although, said that to some extent there is elements of manpower requirement approach in employment generation approach, but there is difference between the two because employment generation approach to educational planning says that educational planning should not only focus on producing skilled individuals, but should also aim to create sufficient employment opportunities for these individuals. Remember that manpower requirement approach is just all about producing skilled individuals. When you produce skilled individuals, do you have sufficient employment opportunities for them? So this approach is now saying that let us plan education in such a way that we'll be able to create sufficient employment opportunities for the skilled individuals. So the rationale is that the maximum utilization and the appropriate development of capabilities of the entire labor force will lead not only to higher levels of income, but also, even more important, to a more equitable distribution of fruits of progress. So apart from higher level that appropriate and utilization of resources can lead to, it will lead to a more important aspect, which is equitable distribution of the fruits of progress, the development advantages. So that is the rationale behind this approach. So its principal goal, therefore, is the expansion of opportunities for more productive employment for all segments of the population, not only certain aspects that um, manpower requirement approach focuses on. That is why I said Frederick Abinson was able to uh, highlight differences, you know, areas of differences between employment generation approach and manpower requirement approach. So the employment generation approach to educational planning aims to prepare individuals for current and future employment needs. Unlike manpower requirement approach that focuses on future employment needs. What is happening currently in the labor force? What will happen in the labor force in future? Employment generation approach, considers this when planning education. So educational programs are designed to meet immediate industry needs demands and consider potential changes in the job market. So when adopting this approach, we plan educational programs in such a way that it will meet the immediate industry needs and demands and consider potential changes in the job market. So it is an approach that recognizes the importance of entrepreneurship and self-employment. But when we compare this to manpower requirement approach, You know, manpower requirement approach focuses on analyzing and projecting future needs. without necessarily addressing the immediate employability or entrepreneurship aspects. And this is one area that employment generation approach actually emphasizes, you know, the importance of entrepreneurship and self-employment. Because in manpower requirements approach, give we seek opinion of the employers of labor. What about those that are self-employed, which MRA ignores, but which EGA, emphasizes? Now, there is one assumption regarding the use of employment generation approach, and the basic assumption is that unemployment and other manifestations of underutilization of human resources are the most critical problems facing present-day developing countries. So, the major two most critical problems that the modern day developing countries face are those of unemployment and underutilization of human resources. And that is the basic assumption that underlie the use of EGA. What are its merits? Why will you prefer employment generation approach to other approaches to educational planning, especially manpower requirements approach? EGA approach recommends that educational planning should not only focus on producing skills individuals, but also aim to create sufficient employment opportunities for these individuals. So the need to create sufficient employment opportunities for individuals makes EGA to be advantageous. It is when the skilled individuals are employed that they can make impact in the economy of the country. So it recommends that education should not only focus on producing skilled individuals, but also aim to create sufficient employment opportunities for these skilled individuals. Then, by considering the requirements of the job markets, the employment generation approach helps to minimize the skills mismatch between graduates and available positions. We are not talking about available positions in the future, the current available positions. How do we minimize skills mismatch between the graduates and these positions? Then it provides training and support for entrepreneurs, which makes educational planning to be able to foster a culture of innovation and empower individuals to start their own businesses. And this is because it favors entrepreneurship, it favors self-employment. So, to a very large extent, we can use educational planning to foster a culture of innovation and empower individuals to start their own businesses. What about the disadvantages? Because it doesn't mean that it is 100% perfect. So, employment generation approach may lead to the concentration of educational resources and opportunities in sectors that have high employment potential because we want to generate employment. So if care is not taken, we will just be concentrating everything within those sectors that we have seen to have potential to create high employment. But we need to balance that situation. So if there is over concentration of educational resources and opportunities in sectors that have high employment potential, it will be disadvantageous in this regard. Then EGA may inadvertently worsen regional disparities by focusing resources and opportunities in regions with high job growth potential while neglecting areas with limited employment opportunities. If you take Lagos as an example, Lagos has high job growth potential and a lot of resources are here, a lot of opportunities are here. So if we now this the adoption of EGA will worsen regional disparities if we focus mainly on those regions that have higher job growth potential and neglect others. And finally, employment generation approach is disadvantageous because the focus on meeting the current labor market demands might overlook the potential changes and disruptions in the job market brought about by technological advancements and global trends. What I'm saying here is that If we are concentrating on meeting the current labor market demands, we might we may end up overlooking the potential changes and disruptions that can be you know brought about by technological advancement and global trends. So in other words, we need to, while focusing on meeting the current labor market, we should be wary of the changes that can be brought about by technological advancements and the global trends. In this second video, I brought to the fore detailed discussions on the remaining two approaches to educational planning: the rates of returns approach, which is otherwise known as a cost benefit approach. I explained what it means, the assumption that underlies its application, the advantages and disadvantages. Ditto for employment generation approach, which I believe most of us might be hearing for the first time on this YouTube channel. Like I said, it is as a result of extensive literature review that I did on the work. So I want to thank you for your rapt attention, and I want to enjoin you to continue to sharing my videos. Um, Try and subscribe. Please subscribe to this channel. Make your comments, your observations, hit the notification bell so that you can have access to my previous, you know, videos and the subsequent ones that I will be releasing on this YouTube channel. Once again, I am Maruf Akinwale Oladejo. I am from the Department of Educational Management, University of Lagos, Lagos, Nigeria.